Hey, this is Overpass Insights. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today, what do you do if your client stops using the app you built for them? Alright, so today I want to answer a question that came in this week from NZ Daily. NZ Daily says, have got a situation that your system goes live and you got the feedbacks from the customer. You implemented the feedbacks and you upgraded it. That's good. But somehow you find the system is not used much. Will you need to find out the reason or just leave it as it is? Thanks. I've had the same thing happen at least twice that come off the top of my head, probably more than that, where you have a client that comes to you, they want a system. It could be something for their internal team, their employers, or it could be for their users. It's different. If it's something on the App Store, like I have a client that comes to me and they want like an app on the App Store and people aren't using it, there's not much you can do there, right? It's just, that's a marketing issue and an ASO issue, and unless that's what you're going to provide them, there's not much you can do. Now I've offered to help out with that kind of stuff, and that usually leads to more and more work in terms of doing optimizations and stuff like that and actually making changes to the application. But on the other side, when you do it for a client, like we had one which is, actually I can't tell you what the client was, but we basically put in this really big system for them, and it was like this reporting system, and and it was the same kind of thing where we put it live. Yeah, there was a few feedback here and there. Hey, can you just change this? Can you do this? Or this bit isn't working like the way we thought it would. Stuff comes up, so you fix all that stuff, and then you check in like a few months later, and nobody's using it. Like nobody was using the app or anything like that. And it's always a difficult one because basically you provided the service that you said you were going to do. You built to their specifications what they wanted, they were happy with it, but for whatever reason they can't get buy-in from their in this case it was their employees. They couldn't get their employees to use the application. So I did reach out. And it's always how the relationship is with the client. Like, you could be like, I'm just so swamped, but if there's anything we could do, is there any way we could get people using this better, and to actually reach out and do that? Because that could be like a bit of follow-on work. But the only thing, you have to, when you reach out to them, you have to be real. Like, again, I'm just so, because I keep getting in the situation where I end up doing free work after the fact because I'm just like, yeah, maybe we just tweak this, do this. But it's like a lot of that stuff is you need to convince them that they need to do it. And that it actually has to be paid for because it does require your time. So I've done both. I've done where I'm just like, reach out and say, hey, I noticed not very many people are using the application. Why is that? Because it could be that somebody had a really good idea for this application, was to really improve their productivity, and they found out it wasn't so much the case. Or it could be that they find it unreliable. Now that's where you come in. Like, you're like, well, if they find it unreliable, then you should probably step in there and fix that because that's your reputation as a developer and everything like that. But it's always good to reach out just to say, hey, I noticed not many people are using it. And now the danger there is you're going to open up the floodgates for a lot more scope creep and whatever. You might get good news, like you delivered it, they signed it off, everything like that. It should be there's a usability issue, or there's a marketing issue, or there's some reason why people aren't using it, or it's they're unhappy with it. Like after the fact, after they start using it, they're unhappy with it, which is, you probably should find out. And that's the scary bit, to reach out and say, hey, your people aren't using this application. Why is that? And they could say, oh, because it's unreliable, because it sucks, because they find it complicated and confusing. And it's like, well, when you guys tested it, that was everything okay. But that kind of stuff, you're basically, you're opening up yourself to good news or bad news. But there's still that thing to be like, sometimes you just have to reach out. Right? That's the risk you take. You have to take it on the chin if that's what it is, and say, okay, well, how can we fix this? How can we make this better? Because you paid a lot of money for this application, and it's kind of a waste that people aren't using it. I've had a client that they just let their App Store subscription expire. They were just like, just didn't bother. And when I reached out, it was like, the person that I was in contact with, they moved on to another company, and then somebody else was like, they didn't really know very much about it, and sometimes it's just because people change hands and projects, whatever. So my advice would be to reach out, just to drop an email, just say, hey, I noticed the numbers are down. Is there anything you need to help get this a little bit more to get it used more often. Anything app wise, because if it's a if it's a word of mouth thing, like they're not spreading the word enough, that's on them. If it's because people used it and they don't like it, it's kind of on you. But it's still something. If it's ongoing work that you need to be paid for. So anyway, it was a good question. I don't think I've ever answered that question before. And that is it for today. Hey, thanks for liking and subscribing. All that all that jazz. I hope you guys have a great week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll talk to you.